Hey, it's Tim Hill here from the Digital Agency Series podcast, where we meet digital agency founders from all around the world. We find out how they started their agencies, how they grew in the early days, and how they scaled their businesses today. Digital Agency Series is presented by SEOptimer, the world's best SEO audit and reporting tool, trusted by over 1,500 agencies to automate their SEO audits and generate new business leads. If you haven't tried it, sign up for a free 14-day trial at SEOptimer.com. Today I'm chatting with Brogan Renshaw, director at Firewire Digital, a digital agency based in Newcastle, Australia. Brogan and his team of three specialize in SEO, PPC, and website design for clients all around Australia. Well, it's a pleasure that you're joining me today, Brogan. Thanks for your time, mate.
Thank you for having me.
It's we've chatted with a few founders from around the world, so nice to chat to an Aussie.
It is wonderful. I did look up a few of your previous ones and did not see an Australian there, so it is wonderful to be the first.
Yes. It's always good to chat to a local, but you know the really interesting thing I'm finding is that the challenges that marketers face and agencies face is pretty similar. Like no matter if you're here or indeed on the other side of the world. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, it is one of those things about digital, isn't it? That, you are going to face very similar challenges no matter where you are, purely based on that, your whole presence is online. And also like that, I get lots of value out of learning about other agencies. It doesn't matter where they are. So, you do benefit from hearing from others.
Exactly. And talking about your background specifically, so you used to be client side and you've got like a lot of e-commerce and SEO experience, and you started your agency in 2017. So I'm really interested in what motivated you to step out and do that.
I needed a job. That's basically the gist of it. So my wife and I moved my wife's originally from Newcastle and I'm from Sydney, and we couldn't afford the housing in Sydney at the time. So we moved up to Newcastle and bought a little house, and I had a job. I got a little job it was casual contract at a small marketing agency. And now they didn't specialize in digital. It was just a more broad marketing agency. The downside of that is that the owner at the time was, they had no idea about SEO, which is what I was brought on for.
Yeah.
They were the ones that were client facing. So when their relationship soured with the client, I was sacked via text message. Wow. After probably about 4 or 5 months it was. And they weren't bringing enough work in to, replace client turnover or anything like that. So I started Firewire because I, had a long, hard look at what the hell am I going to do now when you get sacked. And I just saw that, if they could get clients, so could I. If they don't know what they're doing and I do, surely it can't be that hard. Now, looking back at that time, it is definitely not that simple as I made it out in my mind, but it was the right move, but definitely not as simple as just starting Firewire and get clients.
And I think the thing that's really interesting about that first moment is you certainly have a lot of thoughts about what the agency can grow into and how you can grow over time. What I'm really interested in that first moment though, who was your first client, or how did you get them, and what did that first year look like?
The first client was pretty easy. It was basically the family business that I cut my teeth in, and they just came on board as a proper client. So that wasn't too bad. The second, third, and fourth client were all referrals from friends or businesses that I'd started working with. The first year for me it's a slog, right? Because you've got limited resources to do the things you want to do. So you want to do your own SEO. You want to do, you want to be all over social media. You want to do your website design to have the best digital marketing website in your area or for what you're targeting. But you just can't do everything all at once. So like a book I read towards the end of the first year was called the E-Myth Revisited. And it basically runs through why most small businesses don't work and what to do about it. This book changed the way I approach working on Firewire. So basically, like when you start a business, you're the only person doing everything. So you're working on clients, you're managing the business itself, and you're meant to be the entrepreneur that grows the business. Yet, like the thing that falls off is always the entrepreneur, the business development. You end up just managing the business and working on clients, and that's the trap I fell into. And it wasn't until I read this book where it kind of pushed me to dedicate time to business development, and that's when the business actually started to grow properly.
You contributed to a recent article that we published around agency growth strategies, and you're talking about networking and engaging local community, and I guess that makes sense when you're talking about how word of mouth was very key to you. I'm interested in how that worked pre-pandemic. How did you actually get out and do this kind of business dev in the community, and also what it looks like this year?
I'm traditionally, before Firewire, I still am. I'm useless, absolutely useless at say like a big networking event where there's 100 people there, 200 people there. I'm no good at that. I do not have the skills or ability to approach a group of people and introduce myself. I will just hang back. And that's a weakness that for me, and I recognize that, but I know other people can do that and build business that way. For me, maybe this feeds into what I know we'll talk about later in me starting a podcast a while ago.
Yes.
But I'm pretty good at talking one-on-one. I do enjoy that. So, and that's not as scary to me as trying to approach a big group. So I looked at what I could do, and I just started approaching businesses in the area and just saying, look, hey, do you want to grab a coffee? I'm doing this, you're doing this, let's just chat. Now, generally that isn't like cold emailing a client. It's probably, a similar business. So think of like a video marketing agency or a pure social marketing agency. And, then I approach them, just have a chat, talk to them, see if I can part some kind of wisdom onto them to help their business grow. And they would start to refer their clients back to me.
I see. So it was actually, more about partnerships with those kinds of reciprocal or complementary service in
I don't
businesses?
know. I haven't ever labeled it as partnerships. I mean, it probably technically is. There's never been anything formalized in those things, but it is about building relationships with them and certainly offering some kind of assistance to them as their business. And that's definitely value. Now, to the second part of your question about how did that work this year, it was definitely something that got put on the back burner for the main part of, say, COVID. So you're probably talking March till July. And then, I mean, we were particularly lucky in Australia and New South Wales, particularly, that, we were essentially allowed to go and meet people and have coffee. So that was something I continued to do.
Yeah. When you look at world news, it is, we have to constantly remind ourselves that, like, we are in a bit of a bubble here in Australia, aren't we?
Oh, definitely.
We've gotten away with, I guess having a little bit of a, less arduous time than many around the world. These days, what does Firewire Digital look like today, and what kind of clients do you service?
Firewire Digital today is very different to when I started. When I started, it was I looked at what other businesses were doing in the area and went, okay, I'll do all that, and unlike I'd say more established markets of, say, Sydney and Melbourne, where there's a lot of specialty agencies. So very, very there's pure SEO agencies, there's pure PPC agencies, and there's not, it's harder to be a full service agency and do it well, right? Whereas in Newcastle, it's that's kind of all there is. There's all these just full service agencies, and that's what I thought I needed to do. So, I mean, Firewire today is more specialized. We cut so many services out. Not that we were bad at them. It was just that I didn't enjoy them, and they would take up too much time versus we can, we are so good at SEO, so good at PPC that we can smash it out so much quicker and get more value for our clients. We don't need to charge as much because we can do it quicker. We understand the process. So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing in terms of just, it's not necessarily niching down into a certain niche, but it's definitely like just culling services that don't provide the value or enjoyment.
Yeah.
We've got 4 staff, including myself, on now, which is probably a good size for where we're at right now. We all, with COVID, we're all currently still working remotely. So, I mean, that's been certainly a challenge to get on board with, but I think it's probably where we're going to stay.
Really? Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think we need the costs that come with an office, that come with
co-location.
Yeah. And I find my staff enjoy working with that bit more flexibility. And I tend to work on, I mean, you have to impart trust. You have to trust the person that they're going to do the work. But that's the biggest thing. Like, to me, I don't mind if they don't work necessarily from 9 to 5. But if they get the work done that I expect in that time, I don't have a problem.
Absolutely. I think that idea of kind of delivery over, kind of clocked hours is really going to be a big thing now, like kind of post-COVID. Have you found that your workflows and I guess your processes, has there been any changes with how you communicate with your staff or your clients?
Oh, clients. No, clients, no, because we use like a lot of dashboards that they can view at any time that they want to check what we're up to, or how progress is going. So that's not too much for clients. For staff, there's probably a little bit more time that goes into building the processes. 2020 for me has been about building processes for staff. Getting my processes out of my head and getting that so that can be replicated over and over and over again. And that building processes just takes time. It takes a lot of work and a lot of time. But once it's out, staff can take it and run, basically. There is definitely a learning curve there for staff that come on board to learn the processes, but once they're up to speed, it's pretty quick, and that's probably one of the benefits of remote, that they can just slog away at the learning part of it and then pick themselves up. Yeah,
and with your services, so being primarily SEO and PPC, while those are the main reasons why companies come to you, what are the underlying problems that they're trying to solve?
There's probably 2 main issues. I think we get kind of a bit of a mix between, say, local clients and e-com clients, and it's a bit of a mix, right? Because they both can come in, wanting more leads, more sales, right? But we get a mixture of businesses that they've tried themselves and failed. Generally, they're on some kind of platform, such as like a Squarespace or Wix or something like that, and it just doesn't lend itself to being the business they want it to be. And then the other problem that we get a lot of the time is, particularly around e-com, they've come to us and they've already been burnt by an agency. So like they just haven't seen the results they were expecting for what they paid for. And I think both of those problems, you need to build trust you need to build trust and authority for the client or potential client to trust you, basically, particularly if they've been burnt.
Yeah.
And the way one of the ways we approach that in Firewire is upfront, we'll provide references essentially, from the first email. So if they want to go and check our work on other clients, if it might be past or present clients, they can. We give out about 3 or 4 references, and and that seems to work for us to build that trust right from the start.
Yeah, awesome. I really think that is in short supply, isn't it? Trust with between clients and agencies. So the fact that you really focus on building that at the start that's really key, I believe. And in terms of your other lead gen activities, so apart from what you're doing, networking with other businesses, what else do you do?
We do a little bit of our own PPC. I think that brings a different quality of client in, and they're probably harder to convert. Referral clients are the best. They'll be on board straight away, basically.
Because of that trust.
Again, it's that trust. They've been referred from someone they trust.
Yes.
And it's so much easier to convert. We basically, we don't do any cold. So we only do inbound and, a bit of PPC and a bit of, and just, refer it.
And then with inbound, I see on the site, you've got that free consultation button that kind of opens up a form. What's the typical process there, and how do you kind of optimize that once it gets submitted?
I mean, that depends on what the client's after, right? So, but if thinking on a typical client, so say someone that's like inquiring about SEO, if that's the case, before we jump on a call, before we respond to them, we'll just jump on and do a quick audit of their website, 15, 20 minutes max. Are there any quick wins that we know we could get them, 4 or 4 pages, whatever. So anything that's going to be really easy to fix. And then we will line up a call and just jump on the call with them and just run them through, give them some benefit, even if they're not going to sign up. So explain to them what they're doing not wrong. I try not to use wrong, because generally they're the ones that are working on the site. It's always what can be done better, right? It's really, really important the way you frame the conversation. You've got to be positive. Don't be negative on the client.
Good point.
It just doesn't lead to success if you're negative. We try and frame it as a positive. This can be improved, and if you did this slightly better. And then, we'll just put it in a proposal and shoot it off, and then follow it up. And that's kind of the process that we run through with that free consultation.
Can you tell, like with the kinds of clients you have, can you tell pretty early on about what their conversion is likely to be, just kind of based on pattern matching?
Yeah, I think you can. I think when you spend long enough going through websites and analytics, you do start to see, think on call to action buttons or forms not even working, like I see so many websites that they're wondering why they don't get leads, and they don't have a funnel. They don't have a step-by-step process of what you land on their site and there's no clear direction what's meant to happen next. You know, and they're easy wins. You know, if you just tweak a few things, they're potentially going to get some leads, and they'll be happy.
Exactly. You know, you mentioned it before. I see that you're a footy fan. So in Australia, interesting, football referred to as soccer over here. So the greatest game, football. You previously ran Behind the Game, which was actually a football podcast. How did you get into that?
I got into that because I wanted to hear stories about the people that built the game in Australia or were involved in the game in Australia, and it wasn't available. So I decided to start my own.
First mover.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of podcasts about, you know, what happened on the weekend or what happened that week, right?
Yeah.
There was no podcast that talked to the players about how they got to there, or admin, how they got to be the CEO of a club or whatever. Like, so, you know, there was no essentially behind the person, behind the story, how did they get to where they were? And I don't know, at uni, I studied like sociology and social research. And I think I always just connected to that deeper kind of sociological kind of platform where you know, what makes a person who they are, basically. And, you know, we ended up doing I think it was like 56 episodes, so touch over 50 episodes.
Yeah, right.
And interviewed people from local fans to club CEOs to World Cup Socceroos. You know, it was great.
Wow.
It's fantastic. I mean, it was certainly a challenge to do, and podcasts take a lot of time to do. But I'm a traditionally shyer person. And again, you know, coming back to, I'm no good at that, you know, group gathering type of situation, but one-on-one. But this podcast pushed me, you know, to be able to approach people, to be able to talk to different people when I hadn't met them before, to ask them questions, you know, to delve into their stories. So it's not something, you know, I would have considered doing, you know, growing up kind of thing, but it certainly pushed me to be a bit more confident with people, which was fantastic.
That's excellent. Well, we're following in your shoes, mate. We just started our own podcast here.
That's good.
You know, the article that you contributed to, and thanks very much for contributing to that. But the article that you contributed to also had another Aussie agency, Excite, which is here in Brisbane. And they were talking about how starting a podcast, if you're an agency, you know, that's a great thing to do, and they've gone down that road themselves and have been seeing great results. What are your thoughts on podcast marketing as a previous podcaster?
I love podcasts. That's why I did one for a while. I absolutely smash listening to podcasts every single day. Podcasts take a lot of time to do well. So, you know, you think you got to, even before you jump on, you've got to have your equipment. You've got to know what setup is. You've got to research the topic, research the person you're talking to, recording, editing, then promotion. Like, it's not just, say, the half hour, an hour you're talking to the person. There's probably another 5-6 hours for every hour, you know, like it's if not more. It is a hell of a lot of work.
Yeah.
The trade-off to that is, you know, you have a piece of content that then can be repurposed across so many platforms, which is fantastic for, you know, an agency. I would definitely recommend it. I mean, Firewire wants to do it. I mean, I definitely want to do it. Excuse me. I think the big thing that I would recommend, if, you know, an agency or even an individual freelancer or anything like that wanted to start up a podcast, you know, you have to think about it differently. You know, the thing about when I did the football one was it was a topic that, you know, hadn't been done before. Now there's a whole bunch of them, right? That are kind of similar. Yeah. You know, but you've got to think it a little bit differently. There's absolutely no point copying what is already out there. You know, there's heaps of digital marketing news podcasts. There's heaps of SEO news podcasts. Yeah. You know, maybe think differently. Maybe studies on your client, talk to clients, talk to other businesses. Just it has to be some kind of uniqueness about your podcast to be successful.
Yeah, great advice. Looking into the next year in 2021, we're very close to it. What's coming up for Firewire Digital, and where do you see the agency going?
Let's try and sneak a podcast in next year. I reckon.
Yes.
Maybe. We've got a new website in the works for Firewire, which will take us up a notch. We want to spend a lot of time, not a lot of time. We want to spend a little bit of time building out our content on our site. Thinking SEO guides and things like that for next year. And I just continue to grow, continue to network, continue to do a good job for clients, get those referrals.
Good stuff, mate. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and coming on the show. Thank you very much.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
Well, you can check out Brogan's agency, Firewire Digital. Their site is firewiredigital.com.au. Give them a like on Twitter, which is @FirewireDigital, and he's also on LinkedIn as Brogan Renshaw. So, yes, join us next time when we chat with another agency founder about starting and growing their digital agency. I'm Tim Hill, and thanks for tuning in.